lived all over the country, but most of my adult life here in Richmond. Beside my doctorate in anthropology, I have a certificate in motion picture production from the Germain School of Photography, just for fun, movie making, or sometimes I refer to my productions as fine art home movies. I've had a number of exhibitions of both solo and small group, and participated in many large group exhibits. But I like printmaking, and I have done a lot of printmaking. In fact, I started doing that probably 30 or 40 years ago. So yeah, I do like to consider myself a printmaker. I like images on paper much more than I like images on screens, for example. So I've always enjoyed getting my works out on the wall somewhere.
Now we can move on. Tonight we have Fred Morton here. He's going to do an evaluation of our street photography and photojournalism. And for those that were here last week, Fred did a presentation on it. I think a lot of you have seen it. So hopefully I gave everybody some inspiration. Since I think we have 85 pictures tonight, so I don't want to sit up here and waste time. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Fred and let him take over. And
thank you. And Harold was really clear about 2 hours when we were talking earlier, right? So let me start out. I'm not on camera, so I don't have to worry about being on camera, right? That is correct. Okay, so I apologize to people for Zoom, but you probably don't want to see me anyway, just hear me. Last time when I spoke to you all, I was very clear about my appreciation for the talent in this group. I've been very lucky to have a shift after I retired and become a photographer and have my own business. It does much better in some years than others. COVID was not good. However, things are coming back. I have grown significantly through my involvement with the Virginia Professional Photographers and PPA. I know Jamie Hayes has spoken to you all, Anthony Rumley, and within the PPA world, there are 12 elements in an image that are considered. I'm not going to go through all of those. People talk to you about that. That influences my work a lot. When I'm doing street photography, I probably focus on a couple of them that I'll just talk briefly about tonight, because I'll be using that as a screen as I look at your images. I've been through, they were sent to me ahead of time, so I've been able to go through them 3 times just to really get a sense. And there really is some very powerful work in this group. This is the first time I've done any judging or critiquing. So the caveat is it's my view, it's my worldview as an artist, with recommendations that I think that might make an image better. And please take it in that vein. The maker is the ultimate artist, the person that has captured that image. And I think one of the things we talked about, both with photojournalism or street photography, is intentionality. What's the purpose? And a couple of folks emailed me, weren't confused. And so in one of my responses, I said, it really, for me, when it gets right down to it, photojournalism, typically you're getting paid for something that goes in a journal, typically, okay? Every now and then, and actually one of the great detriments to professional photojournalists over the last 15 years is a lot of people coming out of schools are willing to have their images published for a byline instead of getting paid. So major publications that used to have staff photographers that were amazing may be down to only 1 or 2 photographers, and they use stringers for everything else. And it's what is. I'm not going to make a judgment about that. There have been people I'd admired over the years, and you look at National Geographic and some of the work in there, just incredible, incredible things. So for me, there'd be a couple of things tonight that I think are key. First and foremost, whether it's photojournalism or street photography, are you telling a story? Is there something happened there that captures the viewer's interest or captured your interest, or your heart, an emotion there? That needs to be a center of interest or point of view generally. Sometimes an entire image could be the center of interest, but that's fairly rare. One of the things I encourage you to look at as we go through this, are there distracting elements in the image? One of the things I talked about last time is, and this came from Jay Mizell, if you have words or letters or signs in an image, do they serve a purpose in telling the story, or do they distract? Okay, and I think there'll be examples of both of those tonight. The other thing I'd learned a long time ago, and I think I learned this from Anthony Rumley, if you're looking at an image and spots seem to be bright, one of the things I've learned to do is you squint when you're looking at the image. And when you squint looking at an image, the brightest spot will pop out. And if that's not your center of interest, if that's not the point of story, then whatever that bright thing is pulling away from that. Does that make sense to everybody? And again, by the way, I'm telling you things that I screw up pretty much every time I go out and shoot. If I'm doing street photography, I was lucky enough to go out with Joe. The surgeon cleared me, and the day after, the first thing I was able to do was walk a little bit. I still had my brace on, and we spent some time wandering around Shockoe Bottom, and my best picture was of him, but I didn't enter it. I had that new Nikon. No. And the other thing is an image really busy. Sometimes that can be a part of the story, but most of the time not. So if there's too much going on and you're wandering around trying to figure out what's going on, that may not be a good thing. One of the things that was running ahead of time came from an article I think I put up. And one of the things that I think is very powerful, and there'll be some images you see tonight where juxtaposition, is there some things bouncing off of each other that makes you go, whoa, that's a really great image. So that's impact. And for me, I guess, is I spend a half an hour every day looking at work. And when I have that magic feeling, and you all, again, know what I'm talking about, and I can go back and look at hundreds of my images, and, you know, there are a few that have that real ump. And it's sort of like fishing. You want that big fish, but you don't catch it every day, do you? So, okay, so that is just a brief background, and I'm ready to have images come up. So I'm going to be back and forth because I realized ahead of time that when I do this, y'all can see that, right? The people on Zoom can't.
I try to double yours.
All right, so I'll try and work with the mouse. So,
yeah, we'll try. But that will require. Okay. Does not? Right. Okay, good.
wow. I don't care which label you want to put on it. That's depending upon what the journalist is writing. It could certainly be an image that would go into a newspaper. So there is really a moment going on. And for me, the center of interest and what's going on is what's happening between these two guys.
The title is 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
That's very, very powerful. For me, there's too much in the image that's pulling away from those two guys. So this whole section over here, yeah.
On the right.
This whole section over here on the right doesn't serve the purpose of the story in my view. I also think there's so many words on there they can pull you away from the impact of those two guys. So I would look at probably having it cropped about like that. I think some of the sign is in there. I think it would be interesting for the maker if you would also look at it a different way and do a square that just focuses on the two guys. For me, and I'm drawn to people. I'm drawn to reactions. I'm drawn to interaction. I'm drawn to emotion, and it's there. And there are so many things you want to ask about this image as you look at it. There's a mask in one guy's hand. The other guy is looking up to him, and there's a smile. You can't do anything about it in this image, but I do want to point out, if you squint and look at this image, the two white signs in the middle are going to be what pop out. So in post-processing, I would take the brightness down just a little bit, not enough to make it muddy. And for me, because it's still right in between the two guys, you get that. So next image. Maker?
Who's maker?
Question.
Pardon?
Yes, we know.
Billy Sinclair.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Billy Sinclair.
What was the title of the image?
Oh, I mentioned that before. It's 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Oh, I thought you were telling us where it was. He was. So that's the name of the image, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I got it. Next image.
Ablution in Jordan River.
Wow. There is a story. There is a center of interest. It doesn't bother me with the white robe. It pulls you to the guy. Maybe tone it down a little bit. Look at the expressions that are on the individual faces. This, in my view, well-captured moment. Possibly on this reflection right here, toning it down a little bit. We know that's coming from him. You don't want to get rid of it, but toning it down a little, I think. I know you all, I think Anthony did this and maybe Jamie talked about matting and stroke lines. The stroke line, there are 3 stroke lines here that for me are a little distracting, and the white one particularly is very bright. And it's even brighter on the computer monitor. So a double stroke can be fine, but with that, if you squint and look at it, what pops out to you? The robe in that square box. So that can, again, pull away. But again, super capture. Maker?
Leo Weinberg.
Sure.
I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at an angle, but it looks like the picture's not.
So if you look at the riverbank, that would be the natural flow of it, which is what's making you think that way. And typically you want a line that's going to be parallel, but if you tip that line up, I think it would change the image. And I made the decision not to do this in Lightroom tonight because we could play with it, but I realized if we do that, we could get into the weeds on one image and not get through everything, and I want to get through everything equally with everyone. So good job. Next image.
Admiration.
Admiration, right?
Yes.
It's a really interesting capture. Who is admiring what? Do you see it? So the image on the wall. So something's happening here. The first time I looked at it, I kind of went, huh? And then the second time I looked at it, I scratched my head. And the third time I looked at it and said, there really is, I want to know more about what's going on there. And so for me, that's a sign of an interesting capture. It does feel like it's a little cockeyed, but it's just really the angle of the camera that's there. But there's a story there for sure.
Perry Matthews.
Next image.
Adoration.
Admiration.
Adoration.
Adoration. I'm a sucker for animals. For me, this is a good street photography image. I think, again, the stroke line is a little bright. It could be toned down a little bit. It doesn't, and it looks that it like maybe the line is even uneven here. It doesn't distract a lot, but the interaction with him looking at the cat and dog and them looking up to him, there's emotion and storytelling that's very powerful. I don't know whether pulling down the shadows in the back would be helpful or not. There's a little bit of distraction there to the left of the dog with that chair, but it doesn't bother me a whole lot. I mean, good job.
Susan Van Manen. At the rally.
What the title again?
At the rally.
At the rally. So this is a case for me where words in an image do make a difference. They deepen the story. And you can see she's carrying a burden. She's reflecting about it. Sometimes you're not going to capture a perfect image. The upper left corner may be a little too bright, but so what? From my perspective. I love this image. I will say that the stroke line around the outside is too big and too bright. A gray line that just would separate that from the outer black on the image would be fine. And you could pull it from maybe some of the gray in the image, but again, that white pulls away a little bit, but this would be an image that I would probably buy because of the emotion and the story that's in it.
Susan Kennedy. At the women's market.
At the women's market. So this is an interesting street capture. I love the colors. For me, the cart or whatever that is in the background is distracting in the image. I would probably want to be a little bit more this way, so you're capturing that. There's so much here that I think is pulling away from the image. She's got a powerful expression. That contrast of colors is powerful, but again, that background pulls away.
Patricia Mumford. Band of Brothers.
Again, I don't care whether you call it photojournalism or street photography. A newspaper would print this image for sure as part of a story. It's a great capture. For me, and I'm a Vietnam vet, one of the most powerful things about that wall is the reflections. The people that served there are reflected in the walls with the names of the people they served with that didn't make it back. And this image captures it. This is one of the better images with the reflection. I've seen a lot of them. I love reflections, and particularly up there. And the stuff on the ground, again, is part of the story. It doesn't bother me. I don't think it pulls away from it. Maybe the couple of pieces of white paper that are so bright, maybe tone it down a little bit. But the spot on the memorial, that's not too bright. And so good job with the lighting, good job with the capture. Powerful, powerful story.
Ted Jerkuda. Barrel Racing warm-up pen.
So I really want to love this image. I like it. But for me, the angle feels off a little bit, and I would like to see the photographer move more this way just a bit. And it feels off the way the horse's legs are cut off there. I think I understand what the maker was trying to do. And there's a moment, and it's a nice moment with both of them looking in the same direction and capturing her hair with the wind.
Joe Ring.
I thought that was you, Joe.
Bicycle and woman walking.
I went back to this image a couple of times thinking about it. There's a lot of extra space, and I like the colors. There's some contrast there. but I'm trying to figure out, it's like she's almost going off the edge. And when I thought, I just wondered if the photographer had moved a little bit more to the right, whether or not it would have been a stronger image. There are interesting lines in the image if you follow them, but the lines don't necessarily take me through the image to the subject, and so that's what's pulling me away from it. So I mean, it's a capture. You saw something. It may miss the mark a little bit for me.
Wiley, one beer. Breezy morning.
So, great expressions. There's some gesture and movement in there. I think the signs completely take away from the image. The white visitor information sign is bright. You squint, that's the thing that jumps out to you. And really the story is the two people. I think maybe the photographer maybe was trying to get this as part of the image, but with that sign in front of them, it pulls away from it. So I think cropping it down, I don't think the kebab sign helps the image either. But the capture of the two individuals is really, and there's a neat story there. You see what I mean by gesture? The way you move, and you can also almost sense the movement in that.
Lynn Whitworth. Cleaning streets.
So, good winter capture. I like the angle with the stop sign there. He's stopping. So there's a little bit of twist. I wish that the shadows in the cabin were pulled down a little bit more, so you could see them. This is a tough environment to photograph in. But it doesn't look like any of the snow is blown out. It does, and I'm not sure why. It looks like there's some pixelation or haloing going on right there, and that may have been something with post-processing or not, trying to tone down the white. But decent public works capture.
Edward Hageman. Copycat.
So again, reflections can be very powerful parts of street photography. I'm not typically a big fan of photographing artwork that's already been produced, and what does it do? So, I mean, the copycat, I understand the image and what's going on there. For me, that stairwell on the bottom left gets in the way of the image a little bit. And it's bright on those steps, not overly so, but an interesting capture.
Bob Pampas.
And go back. One other thing on that, it does feel like it's off kilter a little bit, and using Lightroom just to do the adjustment where you can do a vertical adjustment, I think would help with that. And I understand why you didn't crop it in to get rid of the steps, because you're trying to get the reflection. So,
Cuban lockdown.
I love it. The matting is really nice. It does not pull away from the image. I don't like that white trash bag hanging down in there, but there's nothing you can do about that. And I mean, I guess you could try and take it out, but the expression on both those individuals is a powerful storytelling. Love the name of the image. The locks are locked, but the gate is opening, but there's certainly something going on there.
Ann Folger. Diner with friends.
this for me is an okay street photography shot, but there's a lot going on. That car that's intruding in there. I guess the story could be all the colors, or the story that's the people there. I'm just not really sure what the story is for me as I look at the image. You did a nice job though of getting the colors and the lights, because that certainly is a tough area to shoot at night.
Carolyn Pitts. Dog Walker.
So this is another image that I went back to 3 or 4 times. I kept on thinking about it. It's almost, I just wish there was a little bit more of the photographer to the left, where there was more of the guy walking the dog in it with the shadow. Then you would have the juxtaposition that would be stronger. That shadow is really tack sharp. I do find the shadow to the right a little bit distracting. And again, when you're in the street, you're going to take what you can when you can get it, and it's not always in there. So I know sometimes when I get a critique, well, gee, if you'd only move the person this way, it's street photography, Fred, really. You know, I mean, I turned, I saw it, I got the image, but that's the anticipation that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. So again, I like the image. I think there are a couple of things that could make it better.
Todor Raudelov. 4th Street.
So for me, it's a capture. It doesn't wow me. I mean, the colors there. It's an architectural photography, but it doesn't call out to me. I like the American flag in the background, the way that's hanging there. But as I look at this, maybe that's 4th Street that is the subject of the story, and there's not much going on the street itself, so it might make you think about it. But the white matting doesn't help this image at all for me. So,
Shashi Ayer. Homeless, not helpless.
Homeless, not helpless. Again, I love the image. There's something happening. He's homeless, but he's reading the newspaper. I don't mind that the paper's there. I went back and forth as I was looking at it. Did I want to see his face? Did I want to be a little bit more of the angle to see more of what was going on with him? So I'm still kind of torn about that. And if you have a series of images, there might be one that where you moved a little bit to the right, so you captured that. There's some really interesting contrast. And if you look at the gloves, his fingernails are coming through the gloves. He's got tape on that shoe on the foot. So as you look more at the image, for me, the more I looked at it, the more I kind of pulled out of it. It didn't jump right out to me, but I kept on looking at it again. So nice job.
Marianne Bernhardt. Honor Flight.
I love it, but I don't like the photographer. Oh, but Fred, it's street photography. This guy, look, I mean, tell me the name, the title of the image again.
Honor Flight.
I want to talk to that guy with the yellow hat. Again, I don't think the shadow or the photographer helped the image. If he could have been back out of it a little bit, and really, the power of the image is the guy in the yellow hat looking at us. For me, But I think moving a little bit more to the left, there might have been more characters to capture. There's a lot of potential here for sure.
Cindy Walker. Hot chestnuts.
That's a nice capture. It's street photography. The signs don't bother me, and maybe it's because it's Japanese or Chinese, so you can't read them if there were words there. So it'd be interesting what perspective someone from another culture might take. That white light that's right next to his face, if you squint, that's what you see the most. One hand has a glove, the other hand doesn't. So there's some interesting things. I'm wondering about pulling down the shadows in the background, what else might be in there. But good capture, but that white light is really hot.
Nelson Marquina. Lifeline.
So there's a lot going on here. For me, I wish the photographer had captured her going back the other way so you could see her face. Her face is in shadows. And going the other way, you could have seen the expression on her face, I think, which could have added to it. But when I made it big, I mean, it's sharp. I was thinking about a different one. So it's a little soft, but that's okay. Not all of these images have to be super sharp. The subject you would like to be a little bit sharper. I don't mind the background falling off there, but I'm missing the light on her face. But interesting action for sure.
Saravanam Rajamanikam. Lieutenant Todd Weaver, 26.
That certainly fits in either category. I could see that very easily being published in a paper as part of a story behind loss. I want to know more about what's going on. For me, it's an emotional picture, and it's a really tough light. It's either early in the morning or later in the day with those long shadows. This is really picky, but if you squint your eyes, some of those tags really jump out. But for me, it doesn't pull away from the image. I don't know, and I thought about this when I was looking before. I don't know that the stuff that as the top of the image helps the story at all. I think that the top of that could be cropped down. You put your hand across and look at that, because I think the shoes and boots speak for themselves.
Marianne Barnhart. Medieval teenage.
For me, it's street photography. I see what you were capturing. It's very busy. I don't get a lot of motion or emotion from him. He's just kind of standing there. But it represents certainly a moment in time.
Paul Bigfoot. Morning in Manchester.
I went back to this image about 5 times. I love it. Remember, we talked about getting down low and shooting up. Great use of the land, great cap. Look at the expression on his face. What is he reading in the newspaper? I mean, this is storytelling. It's powerful. Maybe the brightness on the left and that aluminum could be tiled down a little bit. I don't know. I just, and this is a really good image.
Hiding normally. Nothing lasts forever.
How many were there that day? This is a good angle of that. You don't need the white stroke around the outside. Again, it pulls away. But good job, great speed in capturing it. There's good detail in the image. The story is there of the building coming down. It really, it's almost completely lined up. I know that building on the left feels just a little bit off on an angle, but if you brought it back any more, then all those lines on the right would be out of kilter. So do you all see what I'm talking about? And that didn't last very long at all. So a good capture.
Harold Lana. Nothing like a good cigar.
So it certainly tells a story. The cigar sign in the background is fine. Not worried about the words being there because it fits with it. There's a lot to the left of the picture that pulls away from the story. Doesn't need to be in there. I'm thinking maybe almost a square image that just has he and the table with the cigar sign in the back and the bit of the stuff to the right. You don't want to crop in too close, but it would be interesting to also go all the way in on him where you just have him and that cigar, because there's a wonderful expression going on there. So there are a couple of pictures within one picture, and that's always. So when you all are looking, I struggle with this too. Where to get the focus, where to do it, where do I crop when I'm done? But if what's in there doesn't pull you to that center of interest, doesn't help tell the story, get rid of it.
Kemp Davis. Olongapo welcomes you.
So it's interesting. Initially, I didn't like the image because I thought there was too much with the signage, and then you start reading the signs. So this way to Friendly Bar, welcome U.S. Navy, Bamboo Love. I'm not sure what the little print is there. So it's a decent street capture. Again, the white border for me, anytime you do white in matting or border, again, squint when you look at it, and what do you see? You see that outline. So when you open your eyes back up and still look at it fully, it pulls you away from it. And she's got a great smile. So I mean it. And I'm thinking there's probably too much on the top of the image that doesn't need to be there also. Interesting capture. I'm sorry, who?
Bruce Murph. Okay. Pink.
And I was there with my brother in 1968.
This is Pink.
So I like him on the do not enter sign. I'd like to see a little more of his face. The stuff on the right, I don't know whether it's a bicycle handle or somebody walking by. That really doesn't do anything for the image. It pulls you out. Probably didn't even realize it was happening until it got, so cropping that out. And the car on the other side with that orange thing, if he's the center of interest in the story, you could have been a little bit more to the left and maybe closer in to him. Now, you may have wanted the car with that in there and thinking about the do not enter. I don't know. Yeah. No, I understand. Do not enter, right? But then is that the story or is he the story?
Gary Kornfeld.
I really like that guy.
Pitch and P.
So this for me is an almost, it's way too hot. Way too hot. And it really pulls away from what's going on with those kids. There's some powerful expressions there. You know, I'm not sure what speed, but, you know, certainly more speed. And I don't know whether the ISO is up, but if you look at where the kids are in the background, it's really contrasty, pixelated in there. And I really want to like the image because the kids on the street doing crazy stuff, but it's just too bright.
Dan Moore. Potatoes for sale.
Great title. I would like to see the photographer maybe moved just a bit more to the left. But again, if she's sitting there and she turns around, you've got the moment. You capture the moment when you can do it. It drives me nuts sometimes when I've gotten critiques on street photography. And someone said, well, if you just had to move this way or that way, well, it's street photography. So that's the moment she turned and looked and you got it. That red on the motorcycle behind her head is a bit distracting, but there's an expression there for sure.
Carol Annis.
And I'm assuming, I said she, but it may be he. Yeah. I just went to the circus. I'm sorry. No,
Rainy days and Mondays.
It tells the story of the rainy day. Again, for me, the white band around it really pulls away from the image. And you guys are doing a great job trying to use matting. This is something that I have been very guilty of when I've been doing VPPA and PPA competition. I pull colors out of the image, and invariably that stroke line, I need to go back and take it way down, and I've gotten that's probably why I've gotten knocked on it enough. But again, when you squint, you go to the outside of the image, and there's really a nice capture going into the center with him crossing the street. It's foggy and rainy, and the stroke line does not need to be that. When you get real thick like that, it just so.
John Schickler. Selfie time.
This is a fun picture. Nice capture. The stuff to the right from this pole right there doesn't need to be there. Doesn't impact the story. Because the story's right here, right? I don't know if the maker's here. If they didn't know you were taking that picture, that's really great because you got a picture of them taking a picture. It's a great selfie shot of them doing it. And they're really engaged with each other, for sure.
Parks Roundtree. Squeezed.
So that's a sign. Does a picture make you laugh? That's a good thing. Humor's a good thing. It was taken outside the window of a bus, probably. So that's a nice capture. Get rid of that. Yeah, I mean, that bottom triangle there, easy to get rid of. Love the expression on the kid's face. And obviously you wish you were outside of the bus and could have been doing that. Where was this? Anybody know? Is the maker here? Okay.
Good point. Always bring your camera.
Always have your camera. Always have your camera.
Carol's Ennis. Stepping out.
I think this is a cool image. The top part where the curve is going, you can just come down and like cut across right there. One of the things that Jay Maisel, when I told you I spent time working with him, anytime you have triangles in an image, they can pull your eye to it or stop the flow through the image. That doesn't need to be there to tell a story. It's those shoes on top of that grate, and is she really going to walk across the grate? Nice contrast of colors. The gold stroke line is too thick and too bright. The bigger part of the mat, I think, fits. Look at those shoes. I mean, it's all it flows together.
Karen Davis. Sweets in the street.
Yes, she is. Great capture. Love the expression. I would, again, try and get rid of that triangle in the bottom right. The sign above her head doesn't bother me. I think it's well captured, and it tells the story, and the fact that she's biting into that with her eyes closed, I think, adds to the image rather than if her eyes were wide open. Nice shot.
Rebecca Perry. Tentative Explorer.
Again, I'm big on reflections. I love reflections, and that's really a nice capture with the reflection in there. But do you all see how that bright stroke line? I don't want to harp on that, but if you're going to matte, you don't want to pull away from when you've done really good work. Good setting on the camera. I mean, it didn't look like there was any loss of detail throughout there. And there certainly is a story. She's watching the waterfall and then that reflection below. Very cool.
Lara Davenport. The Congenial Conductor.
So this absolutely, I mean, a paper doing a story about trains could pick it up, use this. It's a moment. They're waving at him, they're waving at the train, something's going on. I wish it'd been a day where the sky could have been a little bit bluer, but you're going to capture what you can catch and let the expression on his face. If there was more room on the top, I don't know how much you cropped in on that. I probably, if there's room on the top, have a little bit more and look at, maybe cropping down through here. I'm not sure how much this does with the story. I love him.
Michael Orr. Together Forever.
I'm sure that if they got this image, they loved it. It's powerful. It's telling a story. It's also blown out as you get into the center of the picture. And if it was the moment, I don't know if there's enough information in it to just tone that down a little bit. I'd like to be just a little closer to them, but I love the way the path works through the image. But you see where the bright spot in the center that I'm talking about? So, and it didn't it could have had a very thin gray stroke line to break it apart, but I'm really glad that the maker didn't try and put a white line around it. So, and it's a wonderful story. I mean, storytelling in that image is very powerful.
Ed Tepper. Too much, too early.
So, I guess the title says it all, right? And if the title says it all, I'm glad that the photographer was not any closer taking the picture. Were you going to ask me something?
There's a message with it.
Lost sound.
The sound and zoom like
Well, I don't remember what I said. I don't remember what I had for breakfast, so we're in trouble.
Yeah, we're back. We're fine. Go ahead.
Okay. I think the concrete in the bottom, there's probably a little bit much there. And again, on the top, I think the top and bottom could be cropped, and to the right of the image a little bit could come in. You certainly have captured a moment. And look at his expression. I mean, it's like it's your fault and I'm not helping. So there's good storytelling there.
Craig Gavin. Trombone Man.
So this is a little fuzzy up there, but on the monitor, it looks great. I love this image. I went back to it a couple times. It captures, you have a sense of movement while he's playing the trumpet. There are people in the street. It doesn't distract from it. If I was going to be picky, I'd come a little bit. The truck on the far right with the sign, you don't need in there. It doesn't really pull away from it, but you don't need it either. And I love the crop and the way that's done because it fits so much with that slide trombone.
Bill Whitworth. Tuskegee Airmen.
A little bit less of the sky, get rid of the hand to the left. I love the expression on those three guys. There's a story there. I hope the photographer got a bunch of images of those three guys. I like that they're looking off and thinking about being up in the air maybe, but I also like to see their faces too. It's a judgment call in the moment, but the hand on that bottom left really does distract from the image. And the other thing, hang on. See the tire coming out of the guy's head with a hat? I have had tree limbs. You all know this. You want to try when you're looking and taking the image. Is anything sticking out of somebody's head? You want to try and avoid that.
Cindy Walker. We're all Amazon.
So this is a street shot, lots of color. It feels like it's at an angle, a little bit coming down to the right. You were able to stop the skirts flowing. Nice expressions on the kids. For me, it's a very, very busy image, but it's capturing people dancing in the street, and you did a good job of that. And notice in the bottom left, again, that triangle with the light. If you squint, your eyes are going to get pulled right to that.
Terry Truxell. What do I see?
So there's a story here. There's emotion. I'd like to see whether that expression of intensity on that little boy is great, and mom's letting him do what he needs to do. The elbow in the upper right, that doesn't need to be there. It's bright. I think it pulls. It doesn't have anything to do with the story. You could probably come in to the backpack. I'm even thinking that plate that's in the front. I'm wondering what a crop in on their faces would look like, because the plate in the front. I love the story and the image that's captured, but I feel that this is pulling away from it. So, I mean, the story is right there.
J. Denny, World War II icon.
I'm hoping the photographer was just standing there and that happened, that was not staged, because if that was not staged, wow. The only, again, stroke line's a little too thick, but you all are working on that. For me, just back a little bit so that I don't know what's to the left there. I've been up there, but that full base, and I'm okay with that. The white dress and the white pants are not blown out, nor his hat. It's really interesting. I guess there's a bow of the boat that's kind of sticking in right there. But again, if I'm going to have the choice, I'm going to capture that moment. So,
Carol Hageman. And that was the last one, assigned subjects. No, that's it.
we doing okay? We're good time-wise, so is what I'm saying making sense to everybody? I mean, I'm happy with people again, it's my perspective. And Joe, I know we'll talk about the horse. This has been entered before, I think.
Abandoned in Hanover.
So the sign says no trespassing. So I like this. I like it in black and white. Again, that bottom triangle when the road. I just try it with a different crop, but it's a nice architectural piece. No detail is lost. There's a nice range of black to white and the details in there. And it certainly is telling a story about that old building.
Kent Davis. Art lover.
Art lovers, right?
Art lover, singular.
Yeah. Lover or S?
Only one lover.
Okay, so which one is the art lover? Do you all see why I'm asking the question? That's just really an interesting capture. That's one of those moments that if you're just patient and wait sometime, I'd like to know if I'd been smart enough and she was standing there, just wait to see if somebody walks by and cast a sideways glance. And that's not just a sideways glance, you know. And maybe he's just looking at the photographer.
Ed Tepper.
Yeah, colors are good. I like the image.
At the waterhole.
Great wildlife shot. I'm just jealous. Tack sharp. Look at the water from where the jaguar, right? Leopard. So the water where the leopard is licking the water is flopping up. I love the diagonal in the image, the poised. Yellow stroke line, too bold, don't need it. I would really tone that down. That's just a wonderful, wonderful capture. Look at the intensity of the eyes in that.
Harold Lana. Curious green handle.
Good image, nice color contrast. I looked at it a couple of times, and I kept on asking myself if the scene that's on the right, right here, I kept on thinking about it. I squinted my eyes. I thought about it, but I did come back, and the action is with the lizard, and I don't know whether that's a caterpillar or whatever that's below it, but just great nature shot. It does look like that may be a spot on the leaf, or it may be a dust spot. That looks like a dust spot right there. Easy to fix, but beautiful capture.
Kurt Egelman. Currituck Sound Sunset.
Wow. Such a subtle use of color, and there's a bit of stillness and movement in the image at the same time. The stroke line doesn't do it for me. Probably a double matte with a darker line. But the image, I'm assuming, well, that must be, that's something. I don't know whether that's sunrise or sunset.
Sunset. Title is Sunset.
Yeah.
Oh.
Great capture of an arrow.
Susan Van Manen. Dichotomy.
Great street photography. Great street photography. The pole in between the two of them, the different of expressions. They don't even know the other one is there. And the title is great, so that's a nice juxtaposition. We were talking about that earlier. Great shot.
Hayden Nonnelly. Dominion Implosion.
Great capture. Love the crop just on the right. Come in a little bit. That side of the building sticking in there. And actually the drone, I would just come a little bit and get rid of the side of the building and the drone that's there. Because the center of the story is what's happened there. There's great detail in that. You didn't lose anything in the highlights. And being there that day, I know how tough that was. And look, what's really, really interesting, see that little piece of color right there? Did someone forget and leave a TV on? So I really look into that's why I love this stuff. I will go into the detail in the image sometime. Great shot.
Joe Ring. Equal Chance.
Okay, gang, so you stop the ball, you stop the action, but the head's cut off. I'm losing a little bit. It was a great effort. I did like the guy biting his tongue. I hope nothing else happened. So you can see the intensity, but I'd like a little bit more of the top of this image that would help with the story.
Lynn Whitworth. Female wood duck.
I tell you what, I looked at this and it quacked me right up. Okay. All right. Stroke line needs to be thinner. This is a beautiful, beautiful capture. And I always go back and forth. For a lot of the time with the PPA judging, they don't want anything looking off that pulls you out of the image. It doesn't bother me here. There's so much going on. The level of detail in this image, the softness in the background, very, very well done.
Carol Hageman. Glacier Top.
For me, I wanted more detail in the image. It felt soft, and again, that white stroke line, too thick, and it pulls you out of the image instead of into the image. That horizon line is great. That's set right. I like what's going on in the sky, but it just felt soft looking at it and didn't capture me the way I hoped it would. The foreground, if you look at the right, seems very sharp and then seems to get lost the further back you go.
Susan Kennedy. Hair Affair.
Wow. Right. First, great capture. It can be cropped in some on the right, all the extra on the right with the, you don't need all of that as part of the story. You could kind of come down and probably even it out. I'm not a big believer, but in this thing, you see the limb on the left behind the bird on the left? It pulls away from the story. I would take the time to get rid of that because the expression with those two is wonderful. There's movement. They're going at each other. There's a focus. Nice capture.
Rebecca Perry. Hi there.
Great street photo. And this one, I would suggest flip it and see what it looks like going the other way. For me, the way this looks, it feels like you're losing them. And I want to be pulled right to them. If the image flipped, I think that might happen. I don't know. But again, it's the moment. You're shooting here, you're shooting there, and then you look and he's there and you capture the image.
Todo Radulov.
And the colors in that image were great. I've seen lots of pictures of the monks doing the sand paintings, but I haven't seen one where they were taking it apart. So if you look at the expression of those two ladies in the background, the lady to the left of the monk that's peeking around and looking at what he's doing, I wish that microphone was not there, but it can't be helped. There's a center of interest. The people around him are not too busy. You're still focusing right on him with what he's doing with that brush. And there's a sense of peace with that, and I kept on going back and looking at what was going on with the lines and the brush in there.
My mistake, sorry. The title is Honoring Impermanence.
Nice capture.
By Carolyn Pitts.
By the way, the cup on the right, you can't do anything about it, but
Impact Imminent.
What do you say? I mean, wow. Tack sharp. I love that you caught the moment when the tail was just touching the water. That's hard to do. The spread of the wings, the expression on that eagle, those claws are open and ready to go, and it looks pretty sharp all the way through. So that's a great bird image.
Parks Roundtree. Imprints.
So this is one of those images that I wanted to love. I love reflections. I see what's going on there. The whole top part of the image, I think, pulls away from the story. and that if you squint your eyes, that building is so bright in the background. She stands out a little bit. What's the title of the image?
Imprints.
Imprint. So I see why the sign is in the back there.
That's Perry Matthews.
You can tell I'm still thinking about that one.
Leading the pack.
One of the things that's really cool, you got two of the three of them. Well, it's like, what is it, 5.5 feet or off the ground. I mean, that's really hard to do. So there, you have that sense of movement and expression on their faces that are there. The people in the background are blurred nicely. That white stripe and triangle on the bottom left, I'd get rid of that. If you squint, it pulls away a bit from them, but I love those three.
Bill Whitworth. Louis Ginter.
Nice use of that tree for framing of the greenhouse, I guess. When I looked at this before, I wondered whether coming up on the bottom a little bit more, whether there's too much there, but I like the color and the contrast in the image. This is where the blues and the pinks and the green, they all flow together. They don't fight with each other. It's a very gentle, subtle image.
Ted Jerkuda. Looking at you.
I just wish that public parking sign wasn't there. I would think about cropping right here and just a long, narrow crop coming down. And this doesn't do anything for the story right here. It pulls away from it. And again, you can't do anything about the sign, but, change your angle a little bit maybe, and with the cropping.
Nelson Marquina. Monumental Sacrifice.
Great nighttime shot in Washington of the monuments. And this is a case where the white doesn't pull away from the image, but it helps tell the story. And the brightness is there, and it flows together. I like the reflections. Being really picky, maybe just a little bit lower, so that's not in there. But I really, really like the shot. And the matting is very subtle. It may be a bit too reddish. Maybe tone that down, but nice image.
Ann Folger. More bacon, please.
Nice storytelling. Title captures it. We've talked about sharpness before. I think it would help the image if the little boy was sharper and pull in.
Craig Gavin.
I'm still thinking about it. I think that would help. I mean, it's the time of day, and you can't do much about the brightness. So if he was a little sharper, that would help. So, okay.
Craig Gavin. Object of Desire.
So I would want to see the image move to the left a little bit, so you've got the whole front end of the car. The guys on the left don't really have anything to do with the story. It's about those four guys with their object of desire. So for me, it's like it's almost there. I just think the two guys on the left are a bit distracting. I don't know whether it was just a moment or whether you could have moved or not. And clearly, those four guys are engaged with each other.
J. Denny. Out of Maya's Meyer.
So I love the capture of the flower itself. There's too much to the right of the image for me that doesn't seem to be a part of the story. So I would bring that in. And it's a little bright on the bottom right, but I not so much so. I mean, if you squint, the flower pops right out. But it's the stuff to the right that it feels busy, and that's a beautiful, beautiful flower and sharp.
Dan Maurer. Over sharpened.
Yeah, great black and white. Nice detail throughout. Maybe it looks like, and it looks like and the sharpening is great, but it looks like there may be a little bit of haloing around the edges, and that can come with the sharpening. And maybe just back that off a little bit. That cloud at the top left is super bright, and I would maybe tone that down a little bit. I love the flow of the lines in the image, and the level of detail in all those branches and the way that works. Very powerful.
Leo Weinberg. Paprika.
Well, that would make a great jigsaw puzzle. Nice capture, great detail throughout. I think, top to bottom, side to side, playful, huge variety of color, and the color, it just is spot on. And I love the little reflection points of light that are in there. Sometimes people want to get rid of all of that, but I think that's part of I'm assuming this must be some sort of outdoor vegetable booth or something, but it's a really nice shot.
Terry Truxell. Petney.
So I love the nose, but the two white slices of fence are really bright, more up top than they are on the image itself. But that nose is sharp, and you want to reach out and touch it. And the softness in the background, I think, it helps the image for sure.
Paul Bickford. Rainy Night in Richmond.
I love this image. I went back to this. It's like early 1900 French artwork. The capture is great. It's a very unusual method of post-processing. It's a photograph that's a painting, or a painting that's a photograph. I don't know. There's a powerful story in it. Great image. The only thing that jumped out to me is right here. It's a teeny bit distracting, but you can tell I really like the image. So, wow, great job.
Bruce Murph. Shallots.
Nice black and white image. I would probably suggest cropping in even a little bit more. The parts of the basket to the right are a little bit distracting, and you don't see it to the left, so I think you can lose that. Great level of detail throughout. The way the pieces are broken, and it's almost like a piece of modern artwork.
Anita Storino.
And before you go ahead, one of the things with a picture like this for me is because there's so much in it, in that case, it's a good thing. The subject is the whole thing itself, and you keep on going back and looking at the individual detail and wondering about each piece of it.
Shelter from the storm.
This is really, really tough. It's an interesting, it's interesting street photography, or it could be photojournalism telling the story. I would probably suggest cropping here in this piece. The way that's sitting there, just I don't know that it helps it. So maybe coming in a little bit, but you certainly have got the image of the storm, and look at it bouncing off the top of the sidewalk here. And that's really, really tough to get. And an image like this is not going to be sharp because of the rain, and capturing the rain and having a sense of it is really quite well done.
Wiley Wanvier. Skywheel.
Great architectural photo, black and white. In this case, I think that thin stroke line is okay. It doesn't pull away from it. I maybe would tone it down a little bit. It's very much like, who is the graphic artist? M.C. Escher? You all remember that work with the stairs and all of that? It's very powerful with the contrasting lines that are in there. And you're pulled into the picture from the way it's taken. If that picture was flipped around, you'd be pulled out of it. But I just, nice angle on that. Well done.
Patricia Mumford. Space Traveler.
I think you did a nice job capturing the detail of this. The image doesn't call out to me. I mean, the story's there. Assuming maybe this is at the Smithsonian. I'm not sure. But certainly the color and the detail is there and well captured. And it could be used if you're telling a story about the museum and this particular satellite. It could certainly be used in that way.
Billy Sinclair. Starry-eyed.
So for me, I love her. The red stroke line around doesn't help. I would change that. Subtlety on those stroke lines, from my perspective, is there. I'm not sure what that is behind her head. If it's a hand or something, but I love her expression and the tilt of the chin and the way she's coming back to the shoulder. I would probably like to see the full hat, but I don't know what was to the left of the image when the maker took it. But she's something else. But that stroke line, change that, and that'll help enhance it for sure.
Karen Davis. Still blooming.
Nice architectural photo. When I looked at it on my computer, I mean, there's detail throughout the path that takes you into the house. So it's a really good angle for that. It's not shot too low. The lines are straight. The stroke line may be a little bold on it. And it's evenly balanced. I looked at that from the right of a house to the left. And there's a very nice sort of contrasting colors in there too. So well done.
Lara Davenport. The high goal facade.
So this could do with a vertical adjustment. It's leaning back and away and pull it forward. I'd love the structure itself. Back behind it is really blown out, and I do find that distracting. It was probably the time of the day. The two bottom windows, it's clear. I guess up behind the top windows, it's just sky, so you can see stuff going on behind it. I'm not sure where that is. I mean, if it's nearby, it looks like a really great structure to photograph. But it's just really hot in places. That's distracting for me.
Shashi Air. Timeless.
I love the cars. I think what the maker was trying to do. I think in trying to create that sense of timeless, you went too soft throughout the image. I love the structure of the cars. The top three pieces of white really pull you to the top left edge of the image and away from your story. I'm not sure what that is up there. But the center part of the first two vehicles, it's there. And I'm not sure how you took the image with that. But again, the softness in the top white part, I think, pull away. Great effort at storytelling, though.
Michael Orr. Twins.
Oh, yeah. Most of these look fine on the screen. This is even better on the computer. I would crop a little bit more from that right side. I don't think it's doing anything to help with the story of those two. I don't even know if a square crop might be a better crop for this, because those two together are so powerful, and the other stuff is just stuff.
Bob Pappas. Union of Lights.
Really interesting technique. I haven't seen many of these. Very playful with the color and the lights in the background and the softness, I think, helps this image. The stroke line, again, is too bright for me and pulls away from it. I'd go with a subdued, lighter color. There's some really interesting texture both in the ball and the hand, too.
Saravanan Rajamarimikam. Untitled.
I think these are the kind of images that people either really say, wow, I like it, or what's that? I love level of detail and getting in close to stuff. So I love what's going on here. I want to know more about it. It wants me to make me see the whole picture. What are those little doors for? What happens if I loosen that hinge? It's sharp throughout. There are not any bright spots that pull away from it. So for this kind of shot, it's a well done image.
Ken Stevens. Base Resident.
This would be one I would flip. It feels like he's going out of the picture. But great detail on, is it a chipmunk, I guess. It is really hot on the top edge of the urn. And if you squint your eyes, it really pulls you away from him. So I don't know whether a crop that just has the opening with him and the flowers would help the image or not. There's great detail in him, though. I love that.
Edward Hageman. Whip That Fly.
Hard to capture. If I wanted to be picky, I'd want it a little further back so you had the full bend of the line right there. I don't care seeing what's in the water, but the motion that's there and the capture of the river, again, the stroke line pulls away from the image. It just doesn't need to be that bright. The more you look at this image, the more you see in it. I love the balance. It's in thirds, that bottle that's sticking out of his back pocket. And you can see the line that's in his hand as he's casting. Well captured.
John Schickler. Yellow.
For me, I mean, you captured the yellow in the trees. This image doesn't particularly call out to me. I mean, I guess the story is yellow. I find the street lamp there distracting in the image that pulls away from what you're trying to do with the storytelling. The yellow's clearly there. And again, I think the projector doesn't do quite as well. So the yellow is much stronger on the monitor. But I feel like that street light pulls away from it a little bit. Maybe a slightly different angle.
Gary Cornfield. And that was the last image.
Questions, comments? Fred, you don't know what the heck you're talking about? I love the work of this club. And again, my perspective is just my perspective. And I actually, I mean, every time I watch one of the evaluations for the club, I feel like I get a little bit better. It makes me think. So looking at your all's images made me think about stuff I'm doing. I'm saying, oh, I did that. So when I'm talking to you all, I'm thinking to myself, I got to make that correction too. So thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.